Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the PLUSSOUND Allegro. First of all, I would like to thank the rep for PLUSSOUND for making it happen in terms of me being part of this tour. This is by far the most expensive IEM I have had the opportunity to listen to. Its price is over $3,000. So, at that price, either you are lucky enough, like I am, to be part of a tour, or like I was, rather, or then I have some very good friends that actually do loan me some equipment. Namely my Anoli VX that's over there. I have to thank my good friend Gustavo for that, and I also have to thank my good friend Carlos for some other stuff that he has been so kind to loan me, for me to bring you guys more diversified reviews and bring you guys another segment of the market which otherwise would be almost impossible for me to reach. Anyway, talking about PLUSSOUND, it's a brand that's been around since roughly 2012, when its founder decided that it was time to offer the market at the time a customizable service for cables. And when it comes to cables, and I've got some here that they also sent me, the cables look the part, looks the business. They're not exactly the most malleable of cables, but that's down to the copper that they're using, which is it's a very high quality copper extracted in a very specific manner to guarantee then I'm not going to get into the cable talk, but to extract, according to them, the maximum performance and the required nuances that we want to obtain from sound. It's usually said that copper cables make the sound warmer and more inviting, and silver cables make the sound more detailed and more, So depending on how you are going to pair, this is another cable that they have that they also send me. I actually ended up using this one here, which is what they call the EXO. So yeah, they've been around since 2012, offering this service. So you can have your cables customized and so on and so forth. And then now they've decided to enter the IEM game, and the Allegro is the first and only item as of right now. It's basically made by order, and $3,500 to be correct. So $3,499.99. I'm guessing that's the only way to do it. You order and you wait between 1 to 2 weeks and you get it. You can't exactly have stocks, piling up. The terminations that they allow, or that they make available, are anywhere from 4.4 to 2.5 to 6.3. So you can get a whole bunch of terminations that you on the cables. Once again, corroborating with the customization that they offer. The whole package, for $3,500, obviously, your expectations go up quite a bit. It brings a beautiful carrying case. The IEMs sit inside there. You put the IEMs over there. You wrap it around this section here. The case just looks absolute the business. It smells like leather. It's not fake leather. It really does smell like leather. You can buy this case alone. This case costs about $100. So for this price, they give you this carrying case. They offer you some Comply foam tips. They offer you some Symbio W tips. They offer you a microfiber cloth to clean the IM. They offer you a cleaning tool. They give you a nice little accessories package, which makes sense. Is it enough for the price that you're paying? Well, you be the judge of that. The reality is they try and take care of the customer, of the client, as well as possible. And again, I repeat, that's what you expect for $3,500. For $3,500, you want to be treated like royalty. At least in my books, that's what I expect. Okay. Anyway, on to the IEM itself, and I mean, it is, and it's not because it's the most expensive, but in terms of its built, of how the whole thing just oozes quality. And yesterday, if you guys remember when I did the review for the HAKUGEI MS5, I praised it for having a very nice build, and it does have a very nice build, a build which far exceeds its almost $400 price tag. And if there is an IEM that exceeds even more so, that is this, because the whole thing, and you look at the shell, the whole thing is faceted and polished, and this the metal faceplate, everything about the Allegro just oozes quality, oozes premium. The whole thing is CNC machined, so precision in terms of how the drivers are placed inside is spotless. The nozzle, you can see how everything is, it's done as it should be done, perfect, end of story. Okay, once again, this is what you expect, or what you can expect when you pay this kind of money. It's got a 2-pin .78 connector, which I actually like. What more can I say? I think it speaks for itself. The IM is absolutely beautiful. This copper faceplate, the way it's faceted, and the whole shape of the actual shell and everything, beautiful. It is one big IM, and I'll get into why it is a big IM in a second. And for the sake of comparison, I've got here the let me see if I'm picking up the same side so it's easier to compare. So left side Allegro, left side Lecture EJ07M. And I mean, I think, image says it all. This is one big IM. I couldn't get it to sit properly inside of my ears. That's how big it is. It is a big IM. End of story, period. And why is it that big? Well, first of all, it's got two 10 millimeter diameter dynamic drivers, 6 BAs and 4 ESTs. So when you're trying to pack 12 drivers per side in a shell, especially two 10 millimeter dynamic drivers, you do run out of space. It's as simple as that. You need, and especially when you have planned so meticulously the location of all the drivers to try and extract the maximum performance and so on and so forth, it just takes up space, and you can't cut corners. And it is what it is. So that's the first thing that I want to bring attention to you guys, which is make sure that you have or that you are aware that this is a big IM and that it might not fit your ears. End of story. I was able to finally find a position to make it fit, but it's not exactly an IM that I would, for example, walk outside with, because I would be afraid that it would come out. Coupled to the fact that this cable is not very supple and actually helps maintain things in place. If anything, at times it even almost seems like it's trying to push the IM out. Be aware of that. Just be aware. You don't exactly want to have this thing drop on the floor and kink it or damage it or scratch it, because it is $3,500. On to what matters, which is, what does it sound like? We already know that in terms of build, construction, accessories, everything is spot on. What does it sound like? As you can imagine, obviously, it's going to be difficult for me to find IEMs to compare with this, because I just don't have the access to those IEMs. However, and this is by no means me trying to be ungrateful or not appreciative of of the opportunity that was done to me. But the reality, as I always say, at least, is that what I like doesn't necessarily mean that you will like, and vice versa. And when I heard the Allegro the first time. That first impression, yes, I was impressed. I was like taken away because it's got loads of detail. I mean, if the Anoli VX is known for being a detailed and resolute IM, if, as I tested as well recently, the Geek World GQ 100 is also equally detailed and full of resolution capabilities and so on and so forth, this thing takes it to another level. It's steps, detailed, very detailed, hyper detailed. And so initially when I heard it, I was impressed. Oh wow, okay. It was a quick listen, so I didn't really, I went away, okay, fine, impressed. Then when I sat down to listen to it, it took me about 15 minutes to realize that it was just too much. Maybe it's my ears. It is just too much. And it's too much to the point where it actually makes it uncomfortable to listen to music. It makes it uncomfortable to want to listen to music for longer extended periods of time. It is fatiguing, okay? So a process of trying to find the right tip started. I initially used the Symbio W, okay? Then I used the Complies. And then by pure luck, and it was actually something that I came across today, believe it or not, because this review, if I had not found this tip, if I had not been able to find this wideboard tip here, okay, which actually came with one of my Awur Audio products, I think that what I was going to say about the Allegro was not going to be as nice as what I am going to say. Okay. Let's try and break down things. This is I would say a neutralish sounding IEM up to about 4K. And then you have the dip, and then it shoots up just past 5K. It shoots up from that initial band, okay? So from the lowest of the sub bass up to about 4K, everything sits within a band of about 7 dBs. And I would consider that neutralish warm, okay? So it's nice. If I have to take just that section of the sound into account, it is faultless, beautifully done. Would I have liked a little bit more bass? Yes, but it's beautifully done. You have then that dip, and when I show you the graphs now in a little bit later, you'll see. You have then that dip around that area there of, so it's up to about more or less 3, and then you have that dip at around 3, 4, and you got a nice big dip there to possibly do away with some sibilants and so on and so forth. And then it shoots up at 5, and it shoots up about 6 dBs from that band, and it stays within that. It creates a plateau there between 5-ish and about 8.5, 9. It then dips a little bit and then shoots back up again. So you have this humongous amount of energy, which does impress you in the initial stages of listening to it by giving you all this resolution, all this detail that you're just like, oh my God, you're overwhelmed. But then when you settle down and that period of initial infatuation is over, you realize that no, this is way too much. This is not how it's supposed to be. This is not real. This is not realistic. The timbre and the tonality are completely off. And you guys know that I don't mind it when it's off. I don't mind when it's colored as long as it's well done and it's within certain limits. But this far exceeds those limits. And be it with the Comply or with the Symbio, no, for me it doesn't work. Maybe for some other people that were lucky to listen to it, it worked for them, but for me it definitely does not work. And if it doesn't work for me, I am sure that there will be many more that it won't work. Not because I'm special, but I know there will be many more people that it won't work. And if people just don't say that it doesn't work, it's because they maybe are, no, it's an Allegro, it's a PLUSSOUND. We can't say that it doesn't play well. We can't say that about it. No, I will say it. please forgive me, with all respect to all the people involved, I will say it. I don't care if it's whatever brand it is. This is way too much energy in that area. And as I said, and I repeat, were it not for this whiteboard tip that I found, it would have been completely impossible for me to even try and remotely say anything interesting about it. With these tips, it doesn't really reduce that initial plateau that you have. If anything, maybe it even increases it. But then it creates a big dip. It creates this big crevice, and then like something that you see, for example, on an Olina, where you have, you know, everything up to about 8K, and then it drops off and then shoots back up, creating that big sensation of 3D, which usually when you see that in a graph, you have that idea. Okay, so this tip creates that, gives that change in the signature. And the fact that the tip is large and it doesn't allow itself to be, you know, rammed inside of my ear canal, so it has to sit outside, it gives it enough distance for the energy that is still present to be just a little bit more tamed down and create an even bigger sensation of space. So if there's one thing that I will straight away say about this IEM, is it's got a huge soundstage. This thing it makes planars look pale by comparison. Okay, a planar next to this will look like it has no soundstage. This soundstage on the Allegro with this tip, and in my ears with the music that I listen to, is basically limitless. Okay, huge things like imaging, things like detail, all of those technicalities are just taken to another level. And you know, that is kind of it's what this does well. Let's make that clear. That is what this does well. This is an IEM much like the Anoli VX and the GQ100. It's an IEM for those people that are detail freaks. They want the last little bit of detail, you know, thrown at their ears, and they want to pick. That's what it is. With these tips, I don't know if it's going to be something that's going to be very enjoyable. But with this tip, I actually can say, and I can walk away saying that, okay, it's not my favorite IEM. I would take some of the other IEMs that are here over it, but it's fine. It's acceptable. Does it justify its price? No. Okay. For honestly, for $3,500, I was expecting to have my stocks blown off completely. I was expecting to be saying to you guys, I have found my end game IEM, and my end game IEM is an Allegro. That's what I was expecting to be able to say, and no, it isn't. So going back to what I initially was saying about the selection of IEMs, I selected these IEMs because I was so disappointed to a point by what I was hearing from this, that I started saying, but okay, let me see what else I've got. So the first logical choice, and that was, you know, it was, let me compare it to the Anoli VX. And let me just say straight away, again, with all respect to PLUSSOUND, the Anoli VX is a better IEM, simply because everything is more balanced, more coherent. Everything just makes more sense in the levels that it's there. The bass of the Anoli, yes, doesn't have ultimately the tactility that you have here, although this is not its strong point, but it is two 10mm dynamic drivers, so there will be that little extra, you know, that this cannot do. But it's as fast, as detailed, as textured. Everything here is just as good as it is there in that department. Mids, we don't even let's not even go there. Okay, and then the rest, you know, the upper mids, the treble, all of that, the air section, this does it beautifully, faultlessly. Nothing that you can really point. You know, occasionally, yes, and I did mention it when I reviewed the Anoli VX. There is slight hints of BA timbre, which you know, you don't expect it because we're talking over 2,000, we're talking $2,200 here. So we're not talking pocket money. So you expected it to be, at least I expected it to be a little bit, but that was me nitpicking. The reality is, it's minor. I would have liked it not to exist, but it's minor. You know, it's not really an issue. Obviously, I become more critical with these things when the price goes up. If this was $500, I would say no, it's perfect. But it's $2,200. At $2,200, as I said before, I want to be treated like royalty. I want my ears to be treated like if they were the ears. Okay. So the Anole VX is a better IEM than the Allegro. For me, it is. Everything is just more coherent. The tonality, the timbre, everything just makes more sense. It's more balanced, more pleasurable to listen to. So that already out of the way, easy. Which leaves us then with three other IEMs. Lecture EJ07M, also a tribrid. That is a full BA set, also a tribrid like the Allegro. One 10mm dynamic driver, 4 BAs, 2 ESTs. Bass on here is better than the Allegro. It's got that little extra extension, so a little bit more extra sub bass. And because the bass here is very, the drivers are working in a very relaxed manner, ultimately when you really crank it, you see that this starts showing signs of, okay, I'm reaching the limits now, be careful. This scales better, it's got more room to scale, but it just cannot do it because you'll be deaf. When you reach the limits of the bass drivers here, you'll be deaf from the rest. So at the listening levels that you can reach between the two of them safely, definitely the EJ has got a better bass. It's better bass in terms of the overall extension at the lowest of the lows. It rumbles more. It's got a little extra warmth. It is a better quality bass. Okay, mids, basically the same thing. And then where the EJ just again walks all over the PLUSSOUND. And at the time, if you guys remember when I did the review of the EJ07, I said that, you know, it doesn't seem like the ESTs are working. Well, this is actually the polar opposite of the Allegro. Here the ESTs are so mild in their implementation that yes, you do get sensation that maybe they're not working. But the plus point of that is there's no metallic timbre from the BAs. There's no metallic timbre from the ES. There's nothing. That metallicness, that, yeah, I'm sure you guys know what I mean. You know, BAs have got a specific timbre. ESTs have also got a specific timbre. Planers have also got a specific timbre. And depending on how you implement them, you will notice it more or less. It will be more pleasurable. You know, it will create harmonics that are more satisfying to you, that you will accept better. That there is, it's been done better. It's been done in a more proper manner. They could have a little bit more energy, but overall, again, the EJ07 for me is a more sensible IEM. It costs $600. You know, it is a more, it makes more sense in every way. Okay, which leaves us these two, GQ100. And you'll be saying, oh, Akros, how dare you have a $200 IEM here compared to a $3,500 IEM. I mean, I did it yesterday with the Anole. Why won't I do it with this? Simple. Because if I have to be critical about what I was saying yesterday, that this had a little bit, you know, could get a little bit more polished up and this and that, and playing with the tips was a good idea and so on and so forth. Well, if I have to be critical on that aspect, that there is faultless. The GQ100 by comparison to Allegro is faultless. The amount of energy that it has is amazing. And whatever BA timbre, that or metallicness that you will hear, whatever tizziness you will hear from the piezos are more than acceptable and easier to deal with than it is on here if you have the wrong tips. And by wrong tips, again, for me, I repeat, these two. Okay, I also tried a few other silicone tips. It was just too much. So I'm not going to say that this is a better IEM than it's here. It's just a better execution. Obviously, this is a superior IEM to the GQ100. at a volume level that it won't hurt you. Okay, you can feel that you are in the presence of an IM that is very well tuned, bar that issue of being overly energetic, and so you can feel that it's quality. Everything, it's on a different level. Yes, you do. Now, I repeat, make sure you find the right tip. And I'll also say something else. If you spend some time getting the right tips here to counteract that issue that I also mentioned about that timbre and the tonality over there, this thing is capable of giving the Allegro a good run for its money. I will tell you that straight out. The GQ 100 will give the Allegro a good run for its money if you have the right tip there to really polish up the top end. Okay, and finally, I've got here the Jazeer 41T. Why? Because very much like this over here, an expectation was created because, wow, this is an amazing opportunity. Wow, let me listen. And then I was kind of let down. Here, it was a complete opposite. I wasn't expecting anything. The previous product was a little bit of a disappointment. So I wasn't really expecting anything, and I was completely blown away. Obviously, of course, this is not an IM that can compete with this in terms of, the detail and all that. No, it can't. But I will tell you this much: it can compete with the Allegro in terms of its bass and in terms of its mids up to about 3K. It will compete very easy, very capably with the Allegro. It will, and this is $137, people. Okay. So in its bass and its mids up to about 3K, this thing can keep up with the Allegro very well. Much like the GQ 100 does it as well. Very well. Then above that, because of the way that it's been tuned to be more dark and so on and so forth, yes, it loses out a lot of details that this has plenty of. I mean, this has got enough details to give all of them and still have enough for itself. So yes, it will show its limits there of not being, or not having all the twinklies and the sparklies. But in my books, the simple fact that it was able to actually impress me enough in terms of bass and mids up to a certain point, up to a certain volume level, and keep up with an IM that is multiple times its price, for me, it was more than enough to justify it being here. And it's an IM that I honestly, really, and I've got nothing to gain by saying what I'm gonna say now, but I really encourage you guys, if you have the opportunity to listen to it, listen to this IM. You will not be disappointed. If you want to go outright and buy it, I am sure that there will be a lot of people that will be equally as impressed like I was. Okay, equally as impressed. So guys, there you got it. Once again, I just want to say thank you to PLUSSOUND. I hope that what I have said about the Allegro is by no means me trying to be, funny or disrespectful towards what they've done. No, I try and understand, like I always say, I try and understand what was the purpose, or what was the reason. But I just can't understand why you would have an IEM with this amount of energy. I just can't, unless you just like listening to music at very, very low volumes, and you want to at very low volumes have all the detail possible and conceivable. If that is your thing, okay, fine. If you are perhaps a person that doesn't have all of its hearing abilities, which I am one of those that I'm already starting to lose, then I can still maybe see a reason of existence for the Allegro. Now, for the normal person that can still have or still has its full functioning ears, this is way too much. Anyway, guys, I'll show you now the graphs, and you can see what I'm talking about, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, take care. Hi guys, so welcome now to the graph section for the PLUSSOUND Allegro, and I'm gonna start off by showing you the graph using the comply tips. As you can see, the bass is very well executed. It's kind of a sub-bass focus, let's put it that way. Very smooth gliding into the mid bass, and then by 300 hertz it's flat. Very slow and progressive. Again, peaks at about 3. Then that dip that I was telling you about, then it shoots up, and it shoots up about from there From there we are at 81, and there we are at 87. So it's 60 Bs that it shoots up, okay? And it maintains itself like that until about 8K, then it drops off, and then it picks up again. And this, with the Comply, it actually wasn't the worst, because with the Symbio, which is this one here, it got even worse, because it went even higher and it created a plateau over there as well. With the Symbio, honestly, I don't think there will be anybody that will really, and if there is, kudos to you. You got amazing ears. But for me, no way. So the Symbio, I'm just gonna actually just eliminate the Symbio and not even talk about it. With the Comply, okay, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. But the execution from here back is faultless. I mean, this part of the graph is amazing. And then I tried that wide bore tip that I told you, which is this graph here that you see. And basically this here was some difficulty in maintaining the IEM, stable, because of it being big. It couldn't really get it into the coupler. So this it doesn't have all these squigglies and so on and so forth. Forget that. Basically up to 3 maintains itself the same. It does that dip, and then it just peaks a little higher. It's a little smaller, the plateau, so more focused, and then it has that great big dip, and then peaks and then drops off. This here, the way that this comes out to my ears, to my listening, is way more evened out. So I would say that it kind of evens out to be something like this. Okay, so it is a little bit higher than the rest, but it's manageable. Okay, lots of energy still, lots of details, but it works out to be something like that. While the other with the Comply, and I don't know what it is, honestly. I mean, this extra amount of energy that you have here, it's just way too much. It is just way too much, especially on the Symbio. On the Comply, it's still, but on no. I really tried, and the biggest thing wasn't actually being too much energy. Was just the fact that excessive amount of energy just spoiled the whole timbre and the tonality, because up to a certain volume level, having all of that extra sparkle, the same way as the bass will complement the mids. So if you have a good bass, it will make the mids, especially if they are married properly, make the mids sound more correct, more timbrally, more tonally correct. This can also give the bass and the mids that extra snappiness, which is something that, for example, GQ100 has done Geek World has done with the GQ100 by implementing the piezos in front of those bass drivers to actually give that bass that little extra feel of snappiness. So if at low volumes you get that, once you start pushing the volume up, it just becomes way too much. Anyway, I'm gonna show you now the comparisons. I'm gonna leave just with that really wide bore, and I'm gonna show you now the comparisons with the Let Shore. So number 5 here. Okay, with the Let Shore, a little extra energy of bass over there. Let me just put this in red so you can see it better. Okay, so a little bit extra energy there in the ultimate sub bass, but overall very similar, although in terms of sound, and again, granted, fair enough, I don't have that amount of energy up top there, so obviously I get a different feel of the bass. I get a tonality which is warmer, which is more inviting, and not as perhaps cold by comparison, but it isn't, but by comparison as cold as what it is on the Allegro. But overall, I like more the bass. The mids, as you can see, is basically the same thing. It peaks at around close to 3K, 2.7, 2.8K peaks. And then, this whole area here up to about 5, I would say they evenly match each other. It's not really a problem. I would have liked for there to be no recession here in the Allegro, but that's it. But then where the Allegro shoots up, the EJ comes down. Smart. Okay, so no possible sibilance or nothing. And then picks up a little bit again for 8 and then drops off and then goes across nicely. So it's got an energy level which basically corresponds to the lowest part of the bass. You can see there, huh? See? Nicely executed, nicely done. It just plays so good, the EJ. So good, so good. So that's EJ out of the way. Compared to the Anoli VX. Okay. Same kind of story with the bass. But here the bass of the Allegro comes out on top, and then mids faultless on the Anoli VX. Again, the dip where it should be rises but maintains itself within reason. Dips again, comes up again, but everything stays within that window of operation, which is 75 to 83, so about 8 dBs. Everything stays within that 8 dB window. Perfect, no complaints, really well executed. So Anoli VX out of the way as well, EJ7 out of the way, leaves us with the Jazeer, okay, and that's the Jazeer. By the way, I normalized everything at 500 Hz, and if you see again, this shows how well the Jazeer actually was, how well the 41T was actually tuned. Bass is very nice on the 41T, and then the rise of the pin again and the way that the pin again is done, and this whole area here is basically the Allegro, just a little extra energy. Dips like the Allegro, not as much, comes back up, but then dips again. This whole thing here is, in my opinion, more well done, more well executed. Okay, where it loses, yes, then there's not as much. This whole thing here is not as detailed. Okay, and this is, mind you, comparing with the Allegro with that whiteboard tip, because if I was to put here, let's say the Comply, that's a different story there. You can see, okay, it's a different story. So there you have it, guys. PLUSSOUND Allegro. It's an interesting IEM. I'm sure that there will probably be people that will think the world of it. I think that it's way too energetic. This year needs a little bit of work. Just a little bit. Just tame it down a little bit. And I think that, yes, then you will have an IEM that I believe will still maintain all of the qualities that it shines at, which is detail, retrieval, technicalities, and be more within, let's say, the satisfaction of a wider variety or a wider group of people, even though that group of people will always be relatively restricted, because $3,500 is not exactly money that everybody just has to spend on an earphone. Anyway, guys, as always, like and subscribe. Any questions you guys might have, please feel free to ask, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.